Welcome to a new update. It's a short update. We're talking about Bitcoin today. Bitcoin is still facing the 200 EMA. Markets are bearish. We're expecting further downside as we can see a lot of strength coming from the dollar. As yesterday we've had some positive numbers from PMI coming into the markets. In the meantime, what we also see is that altcoins are breaking out left and right. Of course, some are getting pumped. But also some big projects start to move. WorldCoin is doing something, Synthetics is waking up, Chainlink is waking up a little. So are we on the edge of having some movement at this point? In this update we're going to focus on the historical aspect of Bitcoin and what we can assume as an important support level. We're going to navigate through the history of Bitcoin and see what is realistic to expect from here and when we're going to have that move upwards that we all wish that we want to get it. Because in these times when Bitcoin is relatively stable, that's the period where altcoins do well. That's also why Bitcoin dominance starts to drop a little bit. But what will happen if the Bitcoin price is going to drop even more or starts to break out to the upside, and when can we assume that we're going to get it? Before we continue, make sure to hit the like button beneath, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and also check out our other social media channels where you can find more information on the markets and where we trade, as we're trading actively. Our traders have been trading a lot in the past few days, so the community is getting more active as well. Now, we are going, just before we continue, Bitcoin is currently 25k, as you can see on the screen. We've got delay on the spot ETFs for Bitcoin. We are getting an announcement for the ETH futures ETFs in approximately 3 to 4 weeks from now. Spot ETH ETFs are also being applied at this point, so it's a matter of time before they will be approved. We also have Grayscale against SEC that has a 45-day window. So yes, we can expect the markets to have a final correction, but this final correction is the final one. Which means that if we go to 23k or 24k or we close beneath the 200 EMA, I think that's the final one you want to watch. Because with the fact that institutions are jumping into the markets, you should realize that the markets are a must-buy opportunity overall for the long term. Now if we look at history, we can see, and this is a chart that has been provided by Burp, Adrian, who's a friend of mine. He shows the monthly average performance of Bitcoin over the period that it exists. January is positive, February, March, April are positive. We know that May is positive, June is getting worse, sell in May, come back in September. July has been positive, August is really slow, and we have witnessed a downfall of 11% there in the previous month. I think it was even more. And September is a terrible month with approximately down of 6% for September overall. So the average monthly performance of Bitcoin hasn't been well for September. And yes, my microphone didn't work from this point on, so that's why I had to do it again. The sun has changed. We've got sun in the Netherlands, so that's why I'm continuing with this video in this way. The content is the same. What do we have? We've got the average monthly performance of Bitcoin. It's a chart by Adrian, who's called Crypto Burp, and it's a pretty nice overview of what the revenue is doing or the returns are doing for Bitcoin during this specific period of the year. This month is the only red month of the year since existence of Bitcoin. October is plus 15%, the second best month in the history of Bitcoin. Then we've got November, which is 40% plus. December is really good too. And then you can see the rest of the year is actually quite well too. So what do we have in this year? January, February, March were quite well. June was a stable markets, but pretty much a chop. And since then, we've had a very bad period. August, we've had a minus 12% already, and the minus 12% is heavier than the average return of August. The average return of August is slightly in profit, which means that September might not be as bad as we think it is. People are commenting on my post with, you need to sell for September because it's going to be worse. Might be. I mean, the 200 EMA is going to be a super important indicator to hold on to. Bitcoin is again at 25k. It's uncertain whether we're going to hold that level for support, but I think the fear is on the edge of a very high number. The fear is through the roof. Well, essentially, we are, as I mentioned, looking at an ETF spot for Bitcoin in a few months, ETH futures in a few weeks, ETF as well. Grayscale against SEC is going to be an interesting one. And now we've also got ETH spot ETF, and that's just the start. It is the cycle of the institutionals, which means that this cycle is very much comparable to the cycle which we witnessed in 2015 to 2017. So where are we at this point? Well, currently what we're looking at with Bitcoin is a period of, I would say, boring consolidation. I'll discuss the lower time frames in a little bit, but if we're looking at the higher time frames, Bitcoin is basically doing nothing. What did we do in history? We've had a case of a crash in 2015 in August too, right? So we've had this downwards fall. We had a sweep as well of the 200 EMA and of these lows, consolidation during the period of September, and then we started to rally into a big runner in November, and we did actually go up more than 2x. Since then, markets never came back towards the lows again. 2019, we've had a runner, and then we started to consolidate. First move south in September, bounced back up in October, final correction, and then we started to rally up, and then COVID came around, which shouldn't be a big case. I think the markets would have gone up if COVID wasn't really happening at this point. So what are we looking at? We are looking at a case that we are again seeing a runner. We are consolidating, very much comparable to the period that we witnessed here. And currently we are fighting the 200 EMA, in which, as you can see, we're currently moving beneath 200 EMA, looking itself for support. If the EMA is going to be closed above, or the price is going to be closed above the 200 EMA, I bet we can have a green week next week, and we can start going upwards from there, in which we just consolidate. So it's very comparable, but in the end, this correction was almost the end of the run, of the correction, and then we started to run. This correction was the final one, and then we started to run, which means that this correction is the final one. So when we're looking at the lower time frames, it's quite clear that we're into choppy waters, right? We've had this move up, we've had this move down, and I think overall, if, as I mentioned, if we're going to close above the 200-week EMA this week and next week, it is a trigger that we're going to continue going up from there, which means that the positioning from an investment perspective is quite clear. Although the markets are natural for fake outs, which means we've got this sideways range. We have been acting on the highs. We've been acting on the lows. We are again on the lows, but we are looking at liquidity to be grabbed beneath these lows here, which means that if we do that, preferably what I want to see is that we drop beneath the lows in the coming 48 hours. Take out the liquidity, bounce into this area, maybe slightly lower at 24.7, and then bounce back up on Sunday to reclaim the 200-week EMA, and from there we can start looking for upside continuation, into which we are leaving September behind, which is probably going to be a very boring month, a sideways month, and not much more. I'll be back on Saturday with an altcoin update. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Ciao.